thousands of people have mysteriously vanished in America's wilderness. Join us as we dive into the deep end of the unexplainable and try to piece together what happened. You are listening to Locations Unknown.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Locations Unknown. I'm your co-host, Joe Irado, and with me, as always, is a guy who always takes his vitamins, Mike Vandebogart.
Thanks, Joe, and thank you once again for tuning in. Don't have a lot of new announcements for you this week, but I would like to give a shout-out to our new Patreon followers. So we have Elise Bennett, Tina M., Ciara Williams, Colin, Harrigan, Meisenholder, Stephen Gardiner, Zach Phipps, Michelle King, and Colin Jones. So just a huge shout out and thank you guys. Joe and I harp on this every episode that it means a lot to us that you guys are helping the show out. So we appreciate the support. And after this, we're going to be recording a really exciting and fun Patreon only episode. One of the creepiest stories I've ever heard from in the woods. So you won't want to miss it.
All right, everybody, let's gear up and get out to explore Locations Unknown. Unidentified flying objects. UFOs have been the topic of pop culture ever since the first reported encounter. The idea that aliens exist and have been visiting us is exciting and terrifying. Stories about abductions, encounters, and political interactions have been in the headlines in history since humans could write. In this episode, we will cover the most recent revelations regarding UFOs and how we may be near a breakthrough in uncovering the truth. The question, "Are we alone?" has captivated almost anyone that has ever lived. Looking up at the night sky and seeing the thousands of stars always made me question what our place in the universe is. With recent technology, we have learned that beyond what we can see with our eyes, there are billions of other galaxies. In 1995, astronomer Bob Williams wanted to point the Hubble telescope at a patch of sky filled with absolutely nothing remarkable for 100 hours. His colleagues thought it was a terrible idea and a waste of valuable telescope time. For 100 hours, between December 18th and 28th, Hubble stared at a patch of sky near the Big Dipper's handle that was only about 1/30th as wide as a full moon. In total, the telescope took 342 pictures of the region, each of which was exposed for between 25 and 45 minutes. The images were processed and combined, then colored, and 17 days later released to the public. What we found were more than 3,000 galaxies that ended up in the image, some roughly 12 billion years old. To break this down, this confirmed that there are hundreds of billions of galaxies like our Milky Way in the universe, and the odds of being alone, in my opinion, are super low.
If any of you have ever been out hiking, very remote hiking, this has happened a couple times now to me. When at night, if you look up and living in the city, you don't see this, but I was in Hawaii once and then out west once, and to see the disk of the Milky Way galaxy kind of going across the sky is one of the most awe-inspiring things you'll ever see in your life. And when you're looking up there,
it's just incredible.
It's incredible. It really makes you remember everything going on around us on Earth is really not that important in the grand scheme of things. We're just a fleck of sand on
A blue dot.
a beach of, miles of sand. So it really is awe-inspiring.
Yeah, and just to imagine that that's what everybody saw at one point in time.
Yeah.
Because now you have to go to places to get that dark, but before electricity and light, that's what it looked like all the time, anywhere you were at night if it was clear out. And what's crazy about this project, I'm sure some of our listeners have seen this picture before, but when they talk about the size of 1/30th of a full moon, so like look up at the full moon, it's smaller than like the size of a dime, maybe held out at arm's length. So you take a small square, the 1/30th of that size, and that is the section of sky that the Hubble telescope was pointed at. And in there they found thousands of galaxies. It's incredible. And that's 1/30th of the size of a full moon. So how many more of it's just incredible how many galaxies are out there.
And I've mentioned on a lot of past shows that I am a big sci-fi. I watch a lot of sci-fi. I'm a big science buff. I watch a lot of documentaries on, space and science and that kind of stuff. And I always have a hard time wrapping my mind around when they say something like that galaxy's 12 billion years old. It's like, you're talking about lengths and times and distances that are incomprehensible to, humans. I mean, 12 billion years old. I mean,
well, and what I love about this, what I love about that specifically is we can only see the light that's hit our eyes, and that's so far away. It takes time relative to us for that light to travel. So when we see those galaxies, when we see that picture is like 12 billion years in the past is what we're seeing. So the time, maybe there is an Earth-like planet that formed and might be technologically advanced at the same rate we are today, but we are seeing that galaxy 12 billion years before current time. And it's crazy when you're that distance where light plays an effect like that. Like, we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing that 12 billion years ago. That galaxy, one of those galaxies could have, turned into a giant black hole and it's no longer in existence, and we might not know for another 12 billion years.
Not to dampen the mood, but the sad the sad reality of how immensely vast space is, that if any of you watched any kind of space show, you'll know that the universe is expanding at a quicker and quicker speed. And basically, space-time itself is expanding faster than the speed of light, which means that a lot of these galaxies that we see will never ever have a chance to visit, even if we develop, technology that can get us to the speed of light. There's most things that you'll see out in the night sky are so far away that we'll just never be able to get to them.
I think that's kind of the point. We don't have to go on this tangent maybe for another episode. But like when you're thinking about galaxy travel, the speed of light is slow. It's too slow.
Yeah.
It would have to be some other form of transport, which people with the appropriate degrees could explain much better than we could, but where you're like creating wormholes and folding space to transport in other places directly, and there's lots of different stuff that's going on there. But yeah, in the grand scheme of it, light is incredibly slow.
Light is the
for
speed
travel
limit.
In space. It's insane. So, this discovery was obviously huge. Everyone thought it was going to be a waste of time, but he took the risk and decided, I'm going to do it. And much like many major discoveries of the heavens, it just leaves way more ambiguity. We thought there were only X amount of galaxies, and well, now there's thousands of billions of more galaxies than we ever thought. So that is exciting, but it's also disparaging. Kind of like you said, there's so much more we don't know. Mm-hmm. And it also begs the question, if alien life does exist and is advanced enough to traverse that space-time gap, why would they care about us, that single speck of sand, like you said, Mike, or that we're just that little blue dot where we're, if they can come to us, we're significantly underdeveloped in comparison.
I may talk a lot about Star Trek in this episode because I've recently been watching Star Trek Discovery, which if anyone hasn't watched it, it's a really good show. Perhaps, these alien civilizations that are vastly more advanced than us have that directive like they do in Star Trek, where they are not allowed to make themselves, present to life forms that are less advanced than them, that haven't developed that warp technology yet. So maybe they're out there and we're just not advanced enough for them to want to talk to us.
Well, we're gonna get to that, and that's the point of this episode. Because, and that actually is a great lead-in. Because why I was excited about doing this episode, we talked about it a couple times in previous one, is we're skeptical ourselves. Mm-hmm. I fancy myself the skeptic who wants to believe, just like on all the X-Files show. I want to believe, but I'm not just gonna believe because I want to. Yeah. I want actual proof. And recently there is a ton of revelations and outright admissions by governments and former government officials that are not, just the run-of-the-mill people or, ex-employees. They're people who had high-ranking positions in the government. Arguably, if you're a conspiracy theorist, the people who should know are these people. Mm-hmm. And it's all come out relatively rapidly in a short time frame, so it's gotten me quite excited. We've talked about it a couple times, and it's eventually led to us actually doing the show. Now, Mike.
Yes.
I've always wanted to believe this is true.
Okay.
And I've always kind of pushed it off like, it seems far-fetched, mostly because of all the people that come out and talk about this you kind of look at them and go, I don't know who you are, and you seem like you could be a little insane. It's not saying they're lying, but there's also other explanations for it. So I've put together a list of stories that favor more towards aliens are real as far as alternate explanations than anything else.
Okay.
So I approach all these things with, I'd say, the appropriate amount of giddiness, because I'm excited, but I just won't believe anything until, it's officially proven.
Yeah.
So with that as like the predicator to all of this, just so you know where I'm coming from, where I want to believe, but there's a big, deep scientific part of my body that says I'm going to try and explain everything away if I can. Mm-hmm. So the first major news break, and I forget what show we mentioned it in. It wasn't even relative, but I was just so excited. The Pentagon officially, and if you don't know this already, it's because they haven't put a big spotlight on it, which is just disgusting to me. But the Pentagon has officially released that they have physical evidence of off-world vehicles not made on the Earth. That is the statement. Physical evidence of an off-world vehicle not made on this Earth.
So was this an official Pentagon statement or an ex-employee?
That is the statement from the Pentagon.
We'll have to post that in the show notes.
Yeah, we have the copy of it. It's from the Pentagon's UFO unit, which up until this statement was released was a theorized unit they had that they never admitted to, and they outright came out, released documents that they have a unit for investigating unidentified flying objects, which arguably is not weird, because unidentified flying object is just that. It could be a aircraft from another country that's spying that we haven't seen before, and we don't know what it is. It doesn't mean it's aliens, per se. But we'll get into some of the stories, and again, the statement was physical evidence of off-world vehicles, so off-world, not made on this Earth. So they called it a vehicle that wasn't made here that came from space, essentially. This came as the Pentagon UFOs unit is expected to release some of its classified findings, in which experts are calling the most substantial development in extraterrestrial life claims. One former U.S. official, Eric Davis, said he briefed the U.S. Department of Defense in March about the retrieval of off-world vehicles not made to this Earth. This was March last year.
Okay.
The former Pentagon consultant and subcontractor said objects he believed we couldn't make ourselves have been discovered. So Mr. Davis made the claim that otherworldly vehicles had been placed in U.S. government storage. This comes as secretive Pentagon UFO unit will make some of its investigations public for the first time. And they have released some of those documents. We'll have to throw some of the links into the documents, but there is more that is expected to still come out. So this comes on the heels of a very famous story from former Commander David Fravor. And Mike, have you heard this guy's story?
Yeah, so this guy, for anybody listening that has not heard of David Fravor, he has been making the rounds for months now. Like he was on Joe Rogan's podcast. He was on another guy that I listened to. Boy, I wish I could remember his name now. But he's...
Yeah, I heard... you know what's funny? Because Rogan talks about the other podcast he was on, saying Lex. It was actually a better interview than what he gave.
Yeah, his guy's name is Lex Friedman.
Lex Friedman.
if anyone, everyone should go out and subscribe to Lex Friedman on YouTube. He does really good podcasts on all kinds of philosophical issues, science, technology. He had David Fravor on. David Fravor's made appearances in a lot of different documentaries recently about aliens. So he has been all over the place. He's the F-18 pilot who saw that Tic Tac object that was recorded on his jet's cameras.
Yes.
So
yeah, and we could post a link to that video too.
Yeah.
But to your point, the gist was he was dispatched to investigate radar anomalies. So he was dispatched up in his jet, and later described what he saw as, and his quote was, "like nothing I've ever seen." And Mike, you said it was a Tic Tac shaped object able to turn on a dime and make itself invisible to radar. He was followed by other pilots who managed to catch it on video. So it wasn't like one guy who saw something. It was a group of F-18 pilots that saw this and all verified the same story.
yeah.
So the clips were leaked in 2017. So this was a while ago, but obviously there was a lid on it until all this stuff came out. So it was leaked in 2017 by a UFO research group founded by punk singer Tom DeLonge of Blink-182. Wouldn't that be funny if it went down in history books as Tom DeLonge was the one who broke the UFO thing open widely enough to make it public?
That's hilarious just because I'm thinking of two songs. I mean, you and I grew up, Blink-182 was...
I love Blink-182.
That was kind of, when we were in high school and, college, Blink-182 was a pretty big band. And I just remember two of their songs that they sang, we can't say them on here because they're too explicit, but... I'm sure you know which songs I'm thinking of.
Yep, he's going to be the one that ushered in the era of space travel.
Yeah.
No. So he leaked the clips with his group in 2017. It was formally declassified in 2020 by the Pentagon, so they are real. That's the kind of thing. It's like when you knew the first part, it wasn't a big story because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, punk rock singer and his UFO team released some video that looks like, well, no, now it's declassified. It's legit.
This, to me, when this came out, this was kind of the first bit of evidence for me where I'm starting to go, okay, you have my attention now, because a lot of stuff has come out in the past, including, these alien autopsy videos and all, it seems like every UFO video you find is grainy and it's, you can't verify its authenticity and everything. Mm-hmm. This is the first time we've had official Defense Department people releasing a video that, a fighter jet recorded and confirming that, yep, this is real and we have no clue what it is. Yeah, his quote was, "This is not like we saw it and it was gone, or I saw lights in the sky and it's gone. We watched this thing on a crisp, clear day with 4 trained observers," Fravor said. He said he tried to get close to it, but as he did, it accelerated so quickly it was gone in half a second. "I remember telling the guy in my backseat, 'Dude, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty weirded out.'" Once he landed, Fravor mentioned that the object to another pilot, Chad Underwood. Underwood found the UFO, aimed his radar at it, and got jammed. He's telling the radar, "Stare down the line of sight. Whatever it is, I want you to grab it and build a trace file on it, which will tell you where it is, how fast it is, and the direction it was going," Fravor told Friedman, according to the station that was reporting the story initially. "The radar is smart enough that when the signal comes back, if it's been messed with, it will tell you. It'll give you indication that it's being jammed. It's being jammed into about every mode you can see. You can tell you're being jammed," he said. "When you actively jam another platform, that's technically an act of war," Fravor told Friedman. He even said the UFO was capable of achieving flight that was not possible with other current understandings of physics. The object was hovering around 60,000 feet above sea level and dove to about 3 feet above sea level in an instant. "We are unaware of any earthly object or invention that can function in that way. Commander Fravor may be the most credible UFO witness in history currently." So this story is absolutely incredible. And just that last piece is insane to me. And I think it could mean one of two things. There are aliens out there, or some other country or our own has developed technology that defies all known laws of physics. And in this case, I honestly think the latter is the least likely option. And that's why it's exciting to me. Yeah, this is incredible too. As someone who's grown up around pilots and flying, I've been, as I've said, the past, my dad's a pilot, and all my life growing up, I would go flying with him and his friends. And hearing Fravor talk about how this object behaved, really, for anybody who understands kind of a basic understanding of physics and how flight works, the things this object was doing is impossible. I mean, it would have it would have to be I don't even know what kind of technology could have something go from 60,000 feet to 3 feet in an instant. I mean, it's beyond anything. I think,
and a speed that an F-18 can't catch. So here's how to make it even crazier, Mike.
Yeah,
I can't imagine anything that's capable of being airborne, stopping on a dime, and going the other direction at the same speed, even if it's 10 miles an hour. You know, maybe those tiny drones that they race with come kind of close. They can go full speed, come to a stop, and then go backwards. But there's that slowdown period. When he says this thing stopped on a dime, it's going at speeds faster than his jet could catch, then stopping instantly and going another direction.
Yeah. And I mean, if there's any kind of, you know, if that was a human-made craft and someone was piloting it, they would be, you know, a pancake on the wall.
Well, even if there was no one in there, think about the materials that can withstand those types of G-forces. Imagine doing Mach to 0 and then going Mach the other way. What material can sustain that type of stress?
That's why I'm in agreement with you. I don't know what this thing is, but I highly doubt it's some top secret project of another country, because the technology that I can imagine that you would need for something like this is probably 1,000 years away.
I bet it's North Korea. I bet they figured it out. They've been pulling the wool over us. They're actually super advanced civilization, and all the news that comes out of there is like they're not working out.
Yeah.
They're actually like really great people, and they don't want the rest of us because we're terrible to intervene.
I don't know, but
that's fake.
Yeah.
I don't actually believe that, just for people listening. That was a joke.
Disclaimer. We're going to have more disclaimers on our podcast going forward.
Oh, yes. Well, I don't want people to think that I think North Koreans so advanced they can, you know, do intergalactic space travel.
Yes. Then
we lose credibility.
Totally not related, but this reminds me, that disclaimer, the joke I just made, it just reminded me, I saw a commercial the other day where this dune buggy with 2 astronauts is driving on the moon, and they go over a cliff, and on the bottom of the screen it says, "Do not attempt." I was like, who has to see that to say, "Oh, I shouldn't do that"? Like, that was pretty funny to me.
Last one, I promise, because we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
But that reminded me of someone. I just went to dinner with someone last night, and we were joking about how the information age has kind of dumbed down society. And I saw this on the internet somewhere, so it's not mine. But they said we've gone from auto manufacturers having user manuals that come with your car that tell you how to adjust the timing, to telling you not to drink the contents of the battery.
Don't put the gas nozzle at the gas station in your mouth.
Exactly, like that. That's like... All right.
Yeah.
So
all right.
we'll move on, because there's more. So this is early December of last year. Former Israeli space security chief Haim Eshid, I think that's how it is, said that Earthlings have been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation. So he straight up came out. He's no longer the head security, but this is like the top guy for space security for Israel. And he comes out and just says, yeah, we've been in contact with extraterrestrials from a galactic federation.
I remember reading that, and I was thinking, I know I think he's like 87, so he's retired and he's pretty old. But I was trying to think, at that age, you know, his career is done. He had a respected career. I was trying to think, all right, why would he lie about this? Why would he make this story up? And I couldn't find you know, does he want his 15 minutes of fame? You know, is he trying to enrich himself? I mean, at that age and a storied career, he's probably pretty well off. I couldn't think of any real clear reasons why someone like him would make up this story and lie about it.
No, I agree. My first thought was
maybe he has dementia and he's
my
confused.
First thought was initially that, but then you listen to him talk.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have a lot of the telltale signs of somebody who doesn't have their thoughts together. I looked at it more of, he's 87 and it's end of lifetime. I've been holding on to these things for years, time to just spill it.
Yeah, he's like, they could come for me. What are they going to do to me?
Exactly. Like if they try and off him or whatever. But his are obviously way more damning, if you will, because he's making claims that we've been in contact. He said the unidentified flying objects have asked to not publish that they're here because humanity wasn't ready yet. So this Galactic Federation, you can put it on quotes because that's what he calls it, has been waiting for humans to reach a stage where we will understand what space and spaceships are before they basically reveal themselves.
That sounds a lot like Star Trek.
Yeah. So he's a respected professor, retired general, said that aliens were equally curious about humanity and were seeking to understand the fabric of the universe. Ashid said cooperation agreements have been signed between species, including an underground base in the depths of Mars, where there are American astronauts and alien representatives. So this is where it starts getting a little, where I was like, okay, it's starting to get far-fetched, but he's claiming that we've had these contacts for a long time. We have these agreements. There is a base on Mars where American astronauts and aliens basically can meet. So like we've already, quote unquote, been there. My guess is on their craft, if that's true. But he said there's an agreement between the U.S. government and the aliens. They signed a contract with us to do experiments here, he said, and added that then at the time, President Donald Trump was aware of the extraterrestrials' existence and had been on the verge of revealing information, but was asked not to in order to prevent mass hysteria. That made me believe it, because I thought of a guy like Trump, not to get into politics, but like if he heard about something like that, his mouth just runs. So
his fingers would type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had a fun day thinking about Trump trying his best not to tweet about aliens.
Oh. Man, that would be a fly in the wall that day in the Oval Office. Probably had the tweet ready to go on his phone, and he's like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't." No,
I can't believe it. There's aliens out there. I want to tell everybody. This story is the greatest discovery of mankind. We've already been to Mars. I just need to send out a tweet. They're holding his arms back. Mr. President, don't do it.
Yeah, this story obviously is more far out there. I would have to see evidence to really get behind this one, but it does make for, someone should do a movie on this, a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great premise. He said they've been waiting for a day for humanity to develop and reach a stage where we'll understand in general what space and spaceships are, and they're basically watching us. So the White House and Israeli officials didn't immediately respond. NBC News reached out and requested for comment. So Sue Go, a spokesperson for the Pentagon, declined to comment. That I don't think means anything. I think if it's true, they're ignoring it because if you ignore it, it goes away. Or it's not true and they're so busy they're not going to deal with another UFO related thing if they got other things going on.
Yep.
A spokesperson for NASA said one of the agency's key goals was a search for life in the universe, but that it had yet to find signs of extraterrestrial life. And a spokesperson said in a statement, although we have yet to find signs of extraterrestrial life, NASA is exploring the solar system and beyond to help us answer fundamental questions, including whether we're alone in the universe or not. Here's the deal. David Fravor's story, 100% on the up and up. This one, I'm leaning 80-20. 80% being maybe some of it's real, 20% maybe not. Although with all the stuff coming out now, it feels more real. If you ask me how real that story was 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, that guy's probably just a nut job.
Yeah.
And that's just me being honest. I think with all the revelations and how like we're kind of just declassifying stuff and it's things that we've never seen or imagined before coming out that's official, to think that maybe there's some sect of the government that has been dealing with aliens and maybe even NASA doesn't know. It's so top secret. It's like the Pentagon only knows about it. So NASA's being honest. They don't know about it because maybe they don't. And there's 20 people in total that know about this. I don't know.
Well, that is a good point. I mentioned this documentary a couple episodes ago, the documentary on Amazon called The Phenomenon. And a former, I think he was Assistant Secretary of Defense, mentioned that in the U.S. government, there is a top secret classification that's even beyond the president. So there are secrets that the federal government has that, the president isn't even aware of. So in that sense, I could see how something could maybe be concealed. Even the highest levels of government don't know what's going on.
Absolutely. I mean, look at politicians. I won't get political for one party, but there's a lot of people that you wouldn't want to know certain things in all aspects of politics. Am I right? Like, whether you like the presidents or not, or like Congress people or not, there's a lot of smart ones, there's a lot of dumb ones, there's a lot of corrupt ones. They're people.
Yeah.
And people are flawed in general. So if you have some, I won't make a soapbox statement on if it's okay to withhold information from the public or not, but I think I've heard it said before, and I've had some friends and I know people that have had higher levels of access, nothing super big, but they talk about if everyone knew of all the threats that were going on all the time, you wouldn't be able to live your life. So it's kind of like we have a government in order to deal with certain things, so we don't have to on a daily basis. Whether everyone thinks that's good or bad or indifferent, that's just the truth. And something this monumentous, maybe it's good they didn't tell people, maybe it isn't, but regardless, I think it's still possible that there are people that know things that the presidents will never know, that Congress people will never know, and who knows? They're keeping that all locked up, whether it's for better or worse.
Yeah, I think in that regard, I think there might be some truth, but I'm with you on this one. I think I'm going to go even maybe farther in a limb and say 90% BS, maybe 10% fact. I think as I do feel like something's going on, not to get all conspiratorial or anything, but I do feel like recently something has been building to like some big release that they're going to mention, a year from now, 2 years, I don't know when, but it seems strange that all of this information has kind of been trickling out at a faster and faster pace. So who knows? Maybe in a year from now, we'll find out there's a galactic federation and there's a base on Mars. I mean,
well, so we have one more that maybe will bring your belief down to my level.
Okay.
So it's a former defense minister from Canada.
Yeah.
He's got some pretty wild claims about alien life. So here's like a breakdown of those claims. He says there are at least 4 types of alien species that have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. The different species probably have different agendas and should not be considered as one entity. One of the species is called the tall whites, and Heller, that's his name, claims that 2 of them are working with the United States. So he said there are living extraterrestrials on Earth at this present time. And this one, again, there's always kind of like that one that's a little off. A cabal formed by the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Trilateral, my bad. No. The International Banking Cartel, the Oil Cartel, and select members of the military are planning to create a one world government. They are the ones suppressing the information about aliens from the public. So that's, again, the big claim. But what freaks me out, and I wouldn't say freaked me out, but doesn't just write these people off, the guy from Israel and this guy from Canada were at the highest levels of government that would know these things. So now those are 2 people who have since retired.
Yeah.
Different countries, roughly the same qualifications, a level of security access, saying somewhat similar things. Yeah, they have, he says we're meeting on Mars. This guy says they're trying to make a one world government. In the craziness that's been going on, it doesn't feel that far off. So he said, ostensibly, the tall whites struck a deal with the American government shortly after arriving on Earth. Charles Hall has alluded to some kind of technology exchange program and has also implied that many of the society's wonders that we actually enjoy today are just basically piggybacked from alien discoveries that have been clandestinely shared with our government. This I kind of believe. If you look at the trajectory of our technological development, it's insane. And some of it like quantum computing.
Yep.
And it could be that I'm so simple-minded, I kind of understand it. I watch videos for hours on quantum mechanics and to figure, and I get it because someone explained it to me, but you have to look at it through the lens of how did we discover that?
Yeah. No, it's that. So the first statements you were making about the Bilderbergs and the commissions and things like that, whenever I hear some kind of conspiracy and they start mentioning, I know the Bilderbergs are always they're in like every conspiracy.
They're tied
and
to everything.
They're always, you always, it's the banking cartels, and so that kind of stuff. I kind of brush off like, every
because it's par for the course conspiracy theory. It's everyone's been saying it, nothing ever happens. So it's like, okay, great, yeah, another one that it mentions them.
Yeah, the technology exchange thing is interesting because I love history, and if you look at the history of technological advancement, you'll see that from like the discovery of fire to the invention of the wheel was thousands of years, and it took us 1,000 years to go from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age. And I mean, up until the last 100 years, really, it took a really long time to kind of advance. And then all of a sudden, 1900, there were no cars, planes, or anything. And within less than 70 years, we were landing on the moon.
Yes.
I mean, that's
insane. We went from not having a car.
I know.
We didn't have an internal combustion engine for a car to the moon in 60 years.
Yeah. And so,
what?
Yeah. You look at that and you kind of, that you step back like, wow, that's, I mean, we went thousands and thousands of years as a species advancing slowly. And then in a blink of an eye, we're landing on the moon. I mean, that to me,
that's like a quarter of a blink of an eye.
Yeah. In all reality, it's probably not aliens. It's probably just as you develop technology, after a certain point, it starts getting exponentially better just because, once you have computers that can start doing calculations for you, it becomes easier to do harder things. But there's probably a slight probability that there is this alien exchange, and that's why we have GPS and, flat screen TVs and all the other amazing marvels that we use day to day, like our iPhones. The amount of computing power that you have in your pocket now, I think the quote they always say is the computer on the Apollo program that went to the moon would be compared to like a 4-function calculator now.
Yeah, it was like 80 kilobytes of data was computed or something like that.
Yeah, so it's mind-boggling, and I love thinking about that kind of stuff because it makes me just wonder, what will it be like in 500 years from now?
Yeah, arguably at the rate of growth 30 years from now, you half that time. We went from no technology at all to the moon in 60 years.
Yeah.
It's like now we're at some fever pitch level of AI. And I think, what it comes down to? I think that they do exist, and Elon Musk is one of them. And his whole agenda, his whole existence is to slowly bring us into this era. Like, he wants to go to Mars because he's already been there. And he's like, we got to slowly go to Mars so people don't melt down and explode.
That's his home. He just wants to go back.
Yeah, he's a tall white. And he's like, all right, part of the Galactic Federation. I'm going to go to Earth. I'm going to make this tech thing and become a billionaire, and then I'm going to start this space company I want to live on Mars, even though we're already here, but that's how we get people to get used to it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like we mentioned earlier, I'm still very skeptical, but the sci-fi in me, the sci-fi lover in me wants this to be true. I want to think that there's, government agents doing back alley deals with aliens for new technology. That just sounds so cool.
On Mars?
Yeah, on Mars.
So I'd say one thing's for sure regarding aliens and UFOs that I think differ significantly from other supernatural phenomenon. It's like with Bigfoot. We've got this great technology now, but we can only seem to get these grainy videos of it. And you get them, it's those are things like, all right, this is obviously fake. As technology advances, you expect the quality of what you're tracking to get better. And we're seeing that with unidentified flying objects and aliens. I think their technology, I'm going to step into the realm of they exist. That's where I'm talking from now. They have technology that is far outweighing our capacity if they exist. But as our technology gets better, we're starting to catch them more. So the David Fravor thing is we're kind of starting to catch them where maybe they've been there the whole time. But now we're slowly catching up and we're able to see these things. And we're understanding more and people are becoming more accepting. So maybe it is the Pentagon's releasing these initial documents to say, hey, we're testing the waters to see how the public reacts. And quite honestly, nobody reacted. That came out and I was like, this should be the biggest story for the whole week. And it came and went in a day.
Yeah, and just so we don't both agree, I'll play devil's advocate.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I am not going to go as far as to say there's intelligent life maybe visiting Earth, but I do believe, because the universe is so vast and there's so, like we were talking, thousands, millions, billions of galaxies out there with trillions of stars and planets. I almost 100% believe that somewhere out there there's some form of life. Maybe it's bacteria, some type of fungus, or who knows what it is. Is it intelligent? Who knows? Maybe humans were the first species in the universe to gain a level, get to an intelligent level. Who knows? Maybe all the other smart aliens died off.
Or someone's gone through their Gilded Age and had an extinction event 10,000 years ago already. Like we've missed that time window.
I truly do believe that we probably will discover microbial life in our lifetimes, somewhere either on Mars or on one of the moons around Jupiter. I think we will learn of that discovery before we die, assuming we live to, 80, 90 years old.
Yeah. At this rate, we might be living to like 150. We'll have like at least another 100 years of this podcast.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if will we find intelligent life in our lifetimes? Who knows? I think we will 100% at some point learn of microbial alien life, which is exciting and terrifying, because I just picture us going to another planet and contracting some crazy alien virus that just wipes the whole species out.
Yeah, that totally is going to happen. That seems to happen everywhere. In every movie, everything, you get exposed to a new environment and you're going to die. Or we end up killing them all off. Like, either way, the weaker of the two is going to kill the other one off, unfortunately. I don't have any comments on that outside of that's probably going to happen. But can you imagine us doing this podcast with knowing that there's aliens, and then it's Locations Unknown Galaxy Edition, where we just like talk about people going missing in space?
Yeah. Well, who knows? 2020 was one of the craziest years of my life. Just, looking at everything at a macro level. Yeah. 2021 has not disappointed so far. So I think it's amped up the craziness.
We're ripe for aliens to just show up in March.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's 3 months in. It's about time for that alien invasion.
Yeah, right. So yeah, who knows where this year will lead us? But this was a fun episode. Joe and I always like to sprinkle these kind of goofy episodes in to kind of mix it up.
Yeah, I need to allow myself to have fun and not be the skeptic all the time. So this is my opportunity to really believe aliens exist. And and we're gonna do some other cool episodes down the road. I know, Joe, we've talked about doing some episodes on like historical mysteries, like the Holy Grail, or there's a ton of them. There's like 20 that I want to get to. Probably take us like 10 years to do, but that's fine. I've got time.
But so I don't have anything else, Joe.
No, well, thanks again for tuning into our show. As usual, we appreciate all of you for listening and sharing Locations Unknown with your friends and family. Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you prefer to listen on YouTube, these always get loaded up there. There's usually a little bit of a delay because we got to put it up. And you can subscribe to our show as well and watch other video content that we post. Mike's always posting stuff about the national parks and other things. And if you would like to support our show financially, you can visit our Facebook store and buy some cool swag that helps also as a walking billboard. And otherwise, you can join on in our Patreon account, where we are releasing Patreon-only episodes to the public. So if you like what you're hearing and want to hear more, go over to Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you will have access to these other episodes. Plus, each tier, we do swag at different tiers too. So you get more stuff if you do higher tiers, like hats and bumper stickers and things like that.
And I will say, I'll just add, we now have a private RSS feed for our Patreon-only episodes.
Ooh, perfect.
So
they'll get notified?
So you just load the link into any podcasting app that you prefer, and you'll get notified right on your phone when a new episode's posted on Patreon. And the links get sent to you as soon as you sign up to your email. They're It's a custom link just for you, and it only works while you're a subscriber. So if you cancel your subscription, it would stop working. But so we just added that to just make it easier for people to listen.
Awesome. Oh, and I will say one more thing. We didn't have a sponsor script for him, but you can still go on vergercbd.com and use the unknown20 promo code. Some people were asking about that. It is still going to be live. For what I know, it's going to be live for a very long time, so you can get your 20% off. And lastly, remember, when enjoying the beauty of nature, whether backpacking, camping, or just taking a walk, always remember to leave no trace. Thanks, and we'll see you all next time.